It's time for your next favorite episode of the Integratedness Podcast with Jason and Jolene.
All right, welcome back to your next favorite episode of the Integratedness Podcast with Jason and Jolene. I am Jason.
I'm Jolene.
And it's been a while.
Did you get a new microphone?
I did.
Yes.
And a new Scarlet Box thing and a whole bunch of tech stuff like that because it was time for an upgrade.
Yeah, I am not on my tippy toes.
No, and you can actually talk. Don't have to get right at it anymore.
Yeah.
It actually picks up. It's a better... What is it called?
How do I sound, guys? How do I sound? Jason always has to play with my voice.
Yeah, hopefully I don't have to in post anymore. So it's been a while. Last spring, we wrapped up filming. I film stuff usually these days. So when we stopped recording season 3, we teased a whole bunch of ideas for a 4th season, which I can't believe we even got to the point where we were talking about a 4th season. Right? Yeah. And then nothing happened. For 5 or 6 months. So, but here we are.
We say that every time. We're like, yeah, we'll touch base in the summer. And then it's crickets, right? It's funny because somebody just messaged me. Today we're on a Friday. Yep. They messaged me on Wednesday and they were like, when are you recording again? One of our loyal listeners.
Really?
And I was like, funny you ask, this Friday.
There you go.
Isn't that funny?
And usually we drop, the seasons usually start either sort of September, October-ish before Halloween. So we're kind of right in line with where we usually go anyways.
And as I was walking down or driving down Jason Street, I was like, gosh, you got a good Halloween street. Remember, your Christmas street sucks.
Yeah, Christmas street blows here.
Yeah, it's always super dark when I come over for Christmas. And then Halloween's pretty happening.
It is. Yeah. It's going to start. People have already started decorating. I just got a fog machine. So tonight I'm going to play with the fog machine for our Halloween decoration. So how was your summer, Joe? I know a bit about how your summer went, but tell everybody.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that about summer because I think many people here will identify with it. The common theme in my office and even in my life was it wasn't the summer I hoped for it to be. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't a regular summer. That was strange. So in my own personal life, it didn't feel like a regular summer, right? And that's been pretty consistent across the board with a lot of my clients saying it was just different than what it normally is. So there was a lot of weird grief going into September and hockey season and all the things. Because I was like, man, we didn't really get to camp. We didn't, there was a lot of things that weren't the same. But, there were really cool things that happened too, right? Kevin and I went to Niagara. I opened up a new clinic and I have this whole new office space, which again, today I'm going to show new office space because a second one has expanded.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. You now have 2 Jolene Dawn counseling offices in town.
It's wild. The amount of things that have blown up since we last talked is huge in my life and your life. I was just saying to Jason, I was like, should we catch up now or once we press record? Because I have no idea what's going on. There's so many things, right? And Jason and I don't catch up outside of the podcast. We see each other's social media and that's how we stay up to date, right?
Yeah, which I'm sure a lot of people are surprised to know that.
Yeah. But when you think about how busy both you and I are and how disciplined we are with where our time goes, it makes complete sense. We're not catching up on the side, right?
Yeah, total sense.
We're very purpose driven. This podcast has always been purpose driven. The time that it gets is donated by us for purpose. And we kind of don't fuck around on the sides of that.
No, we don't.
We don't spend time prepping it. You don't spend time editing. What we say is what you guys get.
Yeah, right? I might play with sound levels a little bit, but that's it. There's no cleaning things up or moving things around or anything like that, which is the way that when we started doing this venture, that was the point.
Yeah.
Because it kind of ties into how you should approach therapy and your life. You don't fuck around.
Yeah.
Basically.
Get to the point. Yeah. Be as efficient as possible. Don't let there be any leaks in the budget, the time frames, the energy levels, all of that stuff. So I think we've stayed really consistent to that. So all of that might feel weird to people. Oh, that's a strange way to maintain a relationship, but it completely fits with the purpose and intention of this podcast as well. So that's kind of what was happening. That's probably the biggest highlight in my life is what's happening on the business end of things. And I have more students. I have capacity for more students now because I have an extra office space to keep them in so they can practice in person at my office, but also Kevin is amazing and he created me this entire online student hub. So it's this online platform that I can upload tutorial videos into. We all have profiles. We interact in there. All of the documents that they're going to need for practice and learning and handouts. everything I'm uploading into there. So it's going to become this massive learning database over the years. And every semester I intake new students, and at any given time I can have anywhere from 2 to 5 students, or maybe even more, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
I have one gal who's practicing from Manitoba. Right now she's in Winnipeg, and another one on the island, and one in person. And literally every 4 months I have new people lined up. I have people reaching out for like 18 months from now, and they can't actually apply for me to be their supervisor until like 12 months from now, but they're securing their spot.
They're in line, right?
It's wild. And that goes with my business model I had years ago when I went into private practice, where I kind of made this energetic agreement that I want to be fully booked in the hours I set aside for work and in high demand. And that's kind of what continues to roll. I have a wait list for the office spaces, which is why we've always been looking for a second one, right? And looking for the right kind of fit. And why students are lining up before it's their time, all those things. So that's been really cool for me to see that consistently roll out.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So for you, Jason, things blew up in your world
It
too.
blew up in my world too. Actually, this is probably going to be dropped before. So next week on the 26th, my first feature-length directorial debut, Tracking the Wendigo, comes out.
Cool.
And the book that tied into it came out a few weeks back.
And you went and did that last year. That's when you went to Edmonton.
Well, I went to Edmonton at the time, and this is the thing. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing. I knew I was just writing a book. And I always bring my camera with me to film what I'm recording, just so I've got it as a visual database. And there was talk of a film as well. But literally right when we were wrapping up season 3, the Seth Breedlove, who runs Small Town Monsters, said, well, how would you like to direct the Wendigo movie? And it needs to be out by Halloween.
Oh my God.
And could you also do a Bigfoot one for us, too, that could be out before the end of the year? And I just said yes. So the Wendigo one is just going to drop on Sunday. The Bigfoot one we're in post-production with right now. We've just locked the score, which means it's pretty much 99.9% done. And now I've got a series to do that's going to run next year, and I'm working on 2 other films, and I got another book to write by the end of next year.
Jason.
And I'm doing a weekly radio show.
That. Holy smokes. So, you know what's really cool is when we finished off last season, one of the things we just kept saying is like, we need to go visual. We need something visual.
Yep.
We kind of...
That was the only real logical next step for doing something like this, right?
But look at where that ended up. It was on your stream of things too, hey?
Yeah.
It was like, yes, that's where the visual is. That's where, wow.
Yeah. And the radio show was on, I didn't even seek that out. They sought me out they actually contacted me on my birthday. And the guy's like, I'm the Canadian programming director for Sandcastle Radio out of Florida. We want to do a paranormal show, weekly live paranormal show. Would you be willing to talk about it? And so I talked about it, and then and then it was agreed upon. Everything worked out to do it. So I've been doing that as well, which has been crazy.
And like you said, tell a bit more about that story, because I want people to think about this in terms of when you set desire and intention out there and you just kind of unattach from it. So what were you doing in that moment that came through?
So on my birthday, I was building Lego because I got a Lego set. And literally, you get those messenger things where it's like someone wants to send you a message. So it's someone you don't even know.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, I don't even look because it's usually something like porn or spam or something. But for whatever reason, I looked.
Yeah.
And it was that message. And the guy's like, can I give you a call? And I'm just like, sure. Okay. And I still thought it might be a scam or something like that.
Facebook.
On Facebook, right? That's why. So I don't trust anything you really see on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok for that matter.
Except for us,
yeah. We are 100% reliable. But that's what it was. And literally, that was my birthday's July 19th. And by the beginning of August, I had the first episode out. I'm like, did you guys want it in October? And they're like, no, could you do it this next week? And I'm like, no, not next week, because this is Saturday and it was going to go on Tuesdays. And I'm like, I can't do it that fast.
Wow.
So that's been my life in a nutshell. And it's been figuring, and especially because some of these other projects next year, which I can't talk about because the studio will determine when information comes out. It's going to be big, and it's something I know very little about. So I'm doing a ton of research on it right now. And one of the films is a collaboration with someone I've not worked before, but I know. So it's just a lot of thinking and planning, especially juggling all these different things. And you don't write a book overnight. So it's just getting all the ducks in a row, which is actually, and I know you can relate to this, something I did want to talk about on our series season premiere.
Yeah.
Was I'd sent you a video about it, and you're like, no, I trust you. You can just bring it up, and we'll just talk about it. Is right now in society, there's a whole lot of talk and about optimizing everything. Everything's got to be optimized. And there's all these little hacks you can do to optimize everything so you can be an exceptional human being. However, that is fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Because even someone, say like David Goggins. Do you know who David Goggins? Yeah. David Goggins is like an incredible endurance runner, and he's turned himself around from some poor fat kid who's like just like been a Navy SEAL and like a Marine, and he's like this long distance endurance runner, and he's great. He is an exceptional athlete.
He makes
physically
people puke all the time.
All the time in his workouts. But he's been married 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Not so exceptional.
Not so exceptional at that.
I mean, unless he's going for the record of most marriages.
Which good job. Yeah. But even he says like you kind of got to pick a few. And Matthew, we've talked about this. Matthew McConaughey in his book Greenlight. You've got to kind of pick a few things to be good at. Like we're being told right now that we can be awesome at everything, and we can't. You've kind of got to just choose the things you really want to be awesome at, and not buy into like all those things out there that are just telling you you've got to be like. Your workouts you can max out everything, and then your diet you can max out everything, and then here's how to like be the ultimate dad and the ultimate husband and the ultimate this, and you can be all these things, and you can't. It's physically impossible, and you'll burn yourself out.
It reminds me of those funny reels about perimenopause, and it's like the mom trying to hit her protein intake in enough steps and then show up emotionally available for her kid and be attachment parenting and also be the pack mom and do the full-time job in the corporate world. And like honestly, this woman's like shit's flying all over her kitchen. She's on a walking pad, and like it's
that's
true.
what it is. We're being told that you can do that, right? You're being told you can do that, but it's a false sense of being an exceptional person.
It's one of the best ways to disempower people, because if you scatter everyone and make them think that they can dilute themselves that much and still be powerful and concentrated, it's no different than taking a solution. Like look at the physics of the world, right? The chemistry of the world. If you take a pure substance and you dilute it, it is no longer as strong, right?
Yeah, no, it's not.
The same thing happens to us when we lose focus and discipline. One of the most powerful human beings on earth is usually the most focused and disciplined. It doesn't matter whether it's for good or bad. Yeah. But they're focused and disciplined. The ones that aren't are distracted and diluted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That goes back to all the episodes we talked about, like porn addictions, scrolling addictions, Tiger King, right? All that shit that distracts people away from what they could be productive with or whatever.
Totally. Like in all the little like reels that show up on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. And kind of the point of the video at the end is like, stop trying to be all those things. The stuff that's really most important in life is the boring stuff that most people try to avoid. Like just being present to listen to your spouse or hanging out with your kid. Like, I don't know, reading a book or something. And if you look at the best moments in life, those are the ones. So if you focus on being like exceptionally good at the boring stuff, everything else will kind of just fall into its place as it should, right?
Yeah, it's true. It really makes me... where was my head just going? I had like this great idea, and then you got me thinking about like just sitting reading with my kids. I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. That's where it all is. But it gets me thinking about, when we have to be comfortable enough to evolve to the next things, right? So typically we're hanging on to so many things when we're having a hard time letting go of things we've maybe surpassed.
Yes.
So I had an experience of that this year, actually. And I always am really open about how spirit will just hijack either my schedule or a moment or redirect some things. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks for that. Like, get out of my own way, right? And it was interesting because I had... 2 weeks after the fact, been randomly checking my voicemail. I'm notoriously terrible for it because people will call me during sessions. It rings on my computers and shit, and I have to like silence my watch because nothing works the way it's supposed to. And then I forget, I should check and see if there's a voicemail, because who answers their phone nowadays? So I'm like randomly, I think, picking out flowers for my mom's birthday or something. And I'm like, oh yeah, I should check my voicemail while I'm here. So 2 weeks prior, the news station had reached out to me and said, hey, it's Suicide Awareness Day coming up, and we know that you've run events in the past, and we want to do a story. Would you talk to us? Blah, blah, blah. Thankfully, they didn't catch me 2 weeks prior, because I may have said yes, but the fact it was 2 weeks after, I was like, dodge that one.
Right?
Which was kind of interesting, because for me to say no to doing an interview would have felt really weird 2 weeks prior, but it felt right in that moment that I didn't do it, because that was such a big part of my journey. I spearheaded a lot of that stuff in previous years, but that's not where my practice is currently. It's always something that informs my practice, but I've moved a lot away from that into lots of other areas of my life, including my divorce separation, a lot of business growth management stuff, new love, new dreams, new aspirations, and like post-traumatic growth kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it felt very misaligned to be the voice of that awareness project when I haven't actively been participating in it in those events, right? I haven't been running them for a few years. Like, I just haven't. And it was awesome because when I, on Suicide Awareness Day, they had a big walk at MacArthur Island, and I was, of course, there for hockey, and I was so happy to see all those people there, and I loved that someone else was doing it, right?
That's awesome. Yeah,
it felt so cool, but that's a perfect example of, like, I could try and keep a foot in that world and try and, like, put my face at the front of that advocacy, but that's not where I am right now. It doesn't mean I don't support it. It doesn't mean it doesn't inform my practice still, but that's not where I'm facing. That was an old part I'm okay to let go.
Yes.
In order to go where I need to go, right?
Yeah.
So that was an interesting moment for me to, like, walk through, all from this missed phone call.
But those are like the moments in life that teach you things.
Yeah.
Because you, like, and I've been approached to do stuff too, right? And I'm learning to listen to how I feel when that offer comes through. And if it's like one of those where you get that excitement, then it's something worthwhile. But if someone's like, hey, I want you to do this, what do you think? And you got that like,
the clinch.
The clinch?
Yeah.
If you're clinching, then that's usually when you say no.
Yeah.
Because you're going to regret it. And it's sitting outside of your realm of your values.
Totally.
Right? And the values are things, I spent a lot of time, like, I've been right after we wrapped up the last season, kind of working on values, reworking them, because it had been a long time, and I know that as times change and people change, you got to rework it. And it was amazing. Once I did that, I realized how I was allowing myself to live according to, like, the values of, like, the mom that raised me, which I don't agree with most of them, but they were still just sitting there. It was, like, so ingrained in the back of my head that I was making these decisions based on things I didn't even agree with.
Yeah.
And I caught myself doing that. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And just being able to let that go.
Yeah, because that's familiarity. So if you were to be checking with your response system, your nervous system is actually more open to what feels familiar.
It does, totally does.
Right?
It totally
does. That
does.
would have been an example where you were getting a mixed response, being like, oh, well, I agree with that, but then cognitively you didn't. So to choose different would have meant your body would have clenched for a bit.
For sure.
Until you rewrote that one.
Yeah, and you have to rewrite it. And I mean, it doesn't happen overnight either. You got to go through a bunch of different situations that are similar to work through. It's like, no, that's not something I agree with. I don't want to do that.
Yes, and for you do EMDR, so that's a nice tidy up in a session, right?
Oh,
you
for
can
sure.
Get there way quicker because you can just rewrite that, right?
It's like, wait a minute, no, and you just work through it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think those are really key pieces that help us stay focused and actually be less distractive and dilute ourselves. I think of it very much, and I know we've referenced this before, just like financial contribution, right? If you have 10 different funds and you're putting $10 in each, they're all going to grow pretty slow. But if you have one fund and you're throwing 100 in, that one's going to grow really quickly.
Really quickly.
We may not be able to do that in life because once you add family in there, once you add maybe health or work, then you're looking at maybe like 40 in one account, 20 in the other, 10 in the other, and you'll see some of them will grow bigger, and that's maybe where more demand is or more necessity and things like that, right? Very rarely can we throw 100% into one account, but we can absolutely increase the growth in some and let go of maybe where that other 10% is going and invest it somewhere else.
Screen just does that. It's fine. It just
my
goes
God.
into sleep mode.
Like,
I know this is always.
Can you imagine if it just like stopped recording?
I usually just keep doing this with the mouse, but I'm just kind of like, it is, isn't it? It's like, blah. As soon as that stops making noise, then I panic.
Okay. He's pointing down to the main motherboard of his
computer thingamabob.
That's funny.
Yes.
So, I guess that is our cue to shift.
I think so. The computer
shit.
told us.
They're like, okay, get the fuck on with it because you're holding out on us. Man, you can't make that shit up.
You
Jason.
can't. No.
Literally, the screens just went black and they were like, okay, you're done. Drop it. Okay, so what are we saying? So back to when you got that Sandcastle radio.
Yes, the Sandcastle radio offer, which was something, I sent you a message because I was like, I explained what had happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, Joe, I think I'm tapped out on what I can do.
Yeah.
And that means that I don't think I could do this show anymore. Because it's just, there's a one extra thing that doesn't quite fit in with everything else, even though it's something I believe in. Trust me, that was not an easy message to send or an easy. I actually waited a few days to send it because I had to really think it over in my head.
I believe you. And I actually think you were a lot more decisive than you've just reiterated. You didn't say think. I think you were very clear in your decision. I can't do this anymore. I can't do the show. And here's what that might look like. And you're welcome to carry it on and kind of offered for that sort of thing. So that was interesting. Oh, I'm getting like emotional.
I kind of figured you would.
I told Kevin and he's like, how are you? Because he knows how much this means to me, right? I was like, I'm okay. It makes complete sense. And then I was like, I was literally at that point where I'd opened my clinic. I had already had students onboarded, and I'm like, I'm looking at my September schedule. And now that I'm putting myself forward there, I don't know where I would fit the podcast recording in. So,
especially when you think about what we said we had to do for this season to work, right?
So I was like, based on Jason's life and my life and the way we've always run this podcast, which is it will always be in extra time. It doesn't monetize for us. It will be a donation of our time and service. And if it ever becomes a chore or interferes with what we're really pursuing in life, we have to let it go.
Yeah, and that was something we agreed upon.
We did.
At the very beginning when we first started doing this show.
This is an extra. This is an extra. And it has been the most satisfying extra ever because we have so many lovers out there and people that have changed their lives. And then what we just kind of were talking about before this episode here was, holy shit, we did exactly what we said we would do here, which is help people achieve their greatness. And now we've actually outgrown capacity for this because our lives have fucking blown up, Jason.
Yeah, they have. It. Like, we actually went obviously on this journey with everybody else while we were doing it. And I think primed ourselves to be open to where we've ended up.
Because where we started 4 years ago, we didn't have big, broad visions of where this would go. Nope. We just believed in it.
Yeah, it was something, it was an idea. It was a good idea. Someone suggested, I remember, to me that I should do it because I post about mental health online. And I was like, I'm not doing this by myself because I hate things where people aren't qualified to talk about stuff. Yeah. Yet they're doing these videos and shows about it. So I asked you.
Yeah. And I was like, here's my outlet.
Yeah, because you'd wanted to do this.
I've created a podcast and I didn't know how to do the techie part. So ta-da, there you were, right? And that was so crazy. Like, I remember you came to my house that day and I brought out my folder and my notes and I was like, this is the name I've thought of. I've already filled out this. Like, I actually purchased a course on how to start a podcast and had finished all of it except launched an episode.
Well, because that's almost the hard part.
Yeah.
You got to record it. You got to find the platform. You got to do all the audio shit and all that.
So, because everything was so effortless there and stuff, right? But that is how this was birthed. It was the intention behind it. And it makes complete sense. None of that felt misaligned. And it didn't surprise me that both of us were at a point where in our own individual growth, it was, if you didn't message me, I probably would have had to message at some point to be like, holy, I'm over capacity too. Because right now, like I said, second clinic, there's so many multiple students. And so it just made complete sense. So it was funny because Kevin's checked in with me quite a few times over the summer and he's like, how do you feel about it? And I was like, I'm okay. And I said, the other day, I was like, oh yeah, we record this week. And I said, I'm emotional about it now because I'm so excited for us and I'm so proud of what we've done. Mm-hmm. But I'm also oddly just okay because I know neither one of us is making a mistake or, one of the things about goodbyes is that it's so much easier for us to leave when there's animosity or blow up. Yeah. People love that. They're like, what happened? That's what went wrong? You guys are all going to listen and you're waiting for the ball to drop. Who pissed who off? Are they still friends? I was like, what do you mean you're just agreeing to let it go? Yeah, because it's really hard to do that.
It is. And yeah, you're right. It's usually when you've gotten into a fight or disagreement, or you just can't stand working with the person anymore, or something's happened to cause a rift.
People will say what happened, right? If you close a store or something, or you stop working on a project, you're like, nothing. It just wasn't aligned anymore, and I didn't want to go into debt, so I stopped while I was ahead, or
before it became a problem, instead of hanging on well past the point of when you should. And I like to use TV shows as an example. You know, when your favorite show has its moment where you're like, that's perfect. And then it just goes on for 8 more years. And you're like, I fucking stopped caring 6 seasons ago. Well, why are you still... Yeah, Grey's Anatomy on season 22. It's like, stop already. Come on. Or the X-Files after season 5. Or, it's that's sort of the same thing here. We could figure out a way to fit it in and do it every week when it's suddenly a chore to do.
You wouldn't get the same version of us.
You wouldn't get the same version of us. The episodes wouldn't be as interesting. Yeah. We'd start regurgitating stuff because it's easy to talk about it again and just revisit it. So why do that to you? The listener.
Exactly. And there's a sense of obligation. And I think if you were to look at your lives of things you've potentially outgrown, but you're always that delegated person for it. So maybe it's the team manager for your sports team, or it's the one person who always hosts the such and such, or whatever it is. At some point, have you outgrown? Do you need to delegate that? Is it, again, harboring resentment? We've covered so many episodes on this. We've had an episode on when is enough. We've had episodes on resentment. We've covered so many things. We've covered episodes of grief. So now all of you and our like gaping abandonment wounds that have just burst open, right? It's like, oh shit, now what? And I mean, that's kind of what this episode is meant to do, is like create the reality that things can be taken from us at any given point and we will be okay, but we have to navigate that. So believe it or not, guys, you're going to be okay without us. You can put us on replay. Kevin will keep the website open.
Yeah.
We will be on YouTube. We just won't have new material. But then we don't know. Maybe we will have new material. Maybe Jason and I decide like one spring we've got a whole bunch of great content and we're going to have a fucking road show and we rent a bus and go around and do motivational or van down by the river.
Oh, that'd be cool. Van by the river.
Motivational sessions in different communities. Just kidding. That's not happening.
Because that would be some expensive shit right there.
Right? I know. But you can dream, right?
Right.
Watch us like 5 years from now on some kind of road show being like, oh, damn it, somebody manifested that. On October 17th,
right?
2025. Yeah.
And Christmas might roll around and we're like, shit, we need to bring back Shaniqua, I got your ass.
Maybe that's what it is, guys. Maybe you'll randomly get this drunken podcast episode that launches and oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
You just never know.
Shaniqua had our ass for sure, hey?
For 3 seasons. Like, holy cow.
She was like,
that bitch was on fire. Same with Ralph and Edna.
Oh my God. Oh, they're in the retirement home, guys.
Yep. Just
there
kicking back.
Yep. They have officially moved out and they're in the retirement home.
But yeah, that was kind of the message that we kind of wanted to bring this to a close on, is that they're like that whole all good things. Mm-hmm. And the end, just because something is over, it doesn't mean it's goodbye.
Yeah. No,
right?
I really like when we can look at things as evolution and expansion of, right? Like every time I've said goodbye to something, it is typically to achieve more, right? Like every time when I said goodbye in grade 1, it was to go to grade 2, to go to grade 3, right? When I left my first job, it was go to my career. And then when I left one version of my career, it was go to a better one, like government to private. And, you know, every time we have a transition, we're moving into a bigger, bolder, we're repotting ourselves, guys. So we go from a seedling into a bigger pot, right? Or a different pot or one that looks different. And that's essentially what we're doing. And honestly, the amount of rapid growth that you and I have had in the last, I'd say year and a half for sure.
Last 18 months, definitely.
Has been profound that like we'd be crazy to try and slow ourselves down from that or to stay somewhere that keeps us in a previous version, right? Because now we're contradicting the shit we tell you guys to do.
Yeah, we'd suddenly become hypocrites.
Yeah.
Just to do that. Because you have to kind of, Joe and I were talking before, like I said, with everything I kind of got to do in the next year, I've got to figure out how to do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just know I'm going to do it. Because the opportunity's there. And to have not done that would be foolish. It doesn't mean any of it's going to last for 10 years or the rest of my life, but I'm going to do it until it's time to not do it anymore.
And we've talked a lot about like the timing to do things when we have capacity and when it's go time, because there's going to be times it's not go time and we never know what that is. And I feel like I'm in that same energy now. People are like, I can't believe you're opening a second office. Like you're crazy busy already. And I'm like, I have to look ahead. You know, I'm looking at the long-term game. Kevin and I are looking at longer-term plans, looking at different versions of, you know, me rolling out my vision and dream, but then also like investment wise for the two of us in passive income, or what does that look like, right? So looking at some of those things going, yeah, if we can start now, right? Any investor knows, like he tells me this all the time, right? Money will double every 7 years. If you were to wait another 5 years, everything you're bringing in right now is going to delay, right? Yep. So that's also something that, you know, we're modeling to you guys is, like, sometimes opportunities are only going to knock once, right?
You got to take that.
We know that trauma knocks multiple times before you, before it leaves, because it needs you to deal with it. But opportunities, they don't always keep coming back.
No, and I think a lot of people think they can say no now and you'll just get a chance in another year. Yeah. That never happens.
Yeah, when somebody's throwing you a life preserver or a shift in your story or the opportunity to choose different, that might be your like your exit onto the freeway. Yeah, right.
You just take it. You don't know what's going to happen, but you take it.
Yeah, and trusting in the unknown. And I agree with you. I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, I don't know how it's all going to happen. I just trust that it will. Like I know, right? So, excuse me. So that's a big piece. And like, what is the bigger vision? And if any of you sat here for the last 18 months and even in our New Year's episodes, like think about what Jason and I have thrown out there as goals. When you told me that about the radio station, I was like, well, no shit. Like, do you remember what you asked for this year? And I think I responded to you something towards that effect of like, you asked for all those things, but you forgot to say to spread them out.
Yeah, could you just stagger it over the next 24 months or whatever?
Ask and you shall receive, sir.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah, and you did, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, you've kind of asked for a lot of those things, and to go bigger and bolder, right? And I love that. Perhaps this platform helped get you noticed.
Oh, I'm sure. Anything
Right?
you do that you put yourself out there, it gets people know.
Totally.
You know, I'd even be on, like, interviewed for, like, say, the new book kind of thing. And they'd be like, so you do this other podcast called Into Greatness. What's it about? And I'm like, well, it has nothing to do with any of the monsters and stuff like
it's
that.
fucking
But it's
awesome,
fucking
and you should
awesome and you should listen, right? It's a passion project of mine. So, yeah, if you want to be what's, like, sort of a forward-facing person, nothing you do hurts unless you're going to be, like, a racist prick.
Yeah.
Basically, right? But if you put yourself out there and you are pleasant and you are good to people, good shit happens.
Totally. I believe that. And I think both of us have always walked very solidly forward in our own lanes. And we've let them collide here every time, which is why I think we've been able to reach a way broader audience, right? Because I have an audience I bring, you have an audience you bring. And I also think that reflects a lot in people's lives. I've always loved the back and forth in this, right? So I think that also is like where can, like, my story alone wasn't able to help service and inspire everybody, but when we are able to join and households, you know how many like married couples listen to this?
I don't actually. I've always been curious about that.
Lots. Yeah,
that's
I get
awesome.
Lots of them. Yeah, and it's wonderful. But it typically is the gal that'll listen, and then she's like, "Hey, you got to listen to this, right?" Because it is just as much male content as
Yep.
it is female. Right?
Always has been.
Totally. So I think that those are big pieces that we've been able to bring a lot of balance, but we've also been able to hit the masses in a way that we couldn't before. Which is really interesting because I think we live in a really individualistic society, and a lot of people think they just have to do everything alone, right? And I often talk about pairs skating, where you can be the best figure skater in the world, but you still can't do shit that pairs can do.
No.
So some people in Logan Lake, small town BC, they might be able to do a lift, and like Olympic Russian winner can't do that because she has no partner to lift her up,
Yeah.
right? So that's the other thing in our friendships, in our business relationships, in our relationships, we can just achieve bigger versions of ourselves when we're complemented with the right individuals, right? And I think that was one of the coolest things about this project because, like you said, you couldn't do it alone. I couldn't do it alone. And then boom, there's this big movement forward. And now what are we doing? Trudging on our paths of where that kind of trajected us to.
Exactly.
Right?
Knowing that each other's there if anything's ever needed.
And if any cool idea comes up,
Yeah.
it's like, hey. So one of the things I will point out is, like Jason said, if you want to keep doing it, because I know you probably felt like you were bailing a bit or whatever.
And it's also good to put that, like, you could keep going,
Totally.
right? Like,
so I may do something on my own and bring it to like an in-person event kind of style. But I definitely will not have a co-host because that would have to be an entirely different podcast. And it wouldn't be Into Greatness because this is Into Greatness with Jason and Jolene. So if people are curious, that is what that looks like. Just like Jason's projects are Jason's projects in a sense. I really kind of appreciate the container of this one. It doesn't mean it's closed.
no.
We don't know where it will go. We don't know if we'll have this random idea. And we don't know if if it ends today and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me as I get all choked up. That fucking sucks.
Emotions are terrible.
I rolled up in front of his office and I was like, man, he even cleaned up the pile of garbage.
Been out there for like a year.
Fucking year. It was so funny. I was like, he's just getting rid of everything, isn't he? Which is lovely to see people do as well, right? You ever clear out your closet, whatever. So that brings me actually, how's your family doing with all of this? Like everything that's been happening for you? Are you noticing a ripple in your family? Are things going like blown up for them too?
Things are good. Like I get a lot of support from them, which is good. And Jess has been doing her art stuff, which has really took off for her in the spring with her art show. So that was fantastic. And Griffin will be 14 and he has become a complete teenager, like up until 2 a.m. And today he's not even coming home after school. He's going to his buddies and they're going to go to the movies. And that's where he's at. Yeah. But we had a nice moment the other day where he had an appointment and I went with him because I had the time. So I drove him down. And we were hanging out in the waiting room. We were there early because, the traffic has been like a nightmare in this stupid town. I don't mean stupid to insult the town, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So we were there early, like really early. So we're sitting in the waiting room and he's sort of playing this game and I'm watching him play it. And he actually looks over, he's like, "You're watching me play it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I find this really fascinating." We had a great time watching. And so the person he was having the appointment with came out. He's like, "Hey, I'm done early, Griffin. Do you want to come in now?" And he's like, "No, I want to hang out here with my dad for a bit." And that was like one of the most awesome, because he's now very independent. So for him to say that was like the best thing that's happened in like a year, it feels like. Out of all that other shit that I'm doing that is so cool and all the stuff I've always wanted to do and everything, that was like the greatest feeling ever.
That's amazing. Yeah. And even just looking at all the opportunity that's come to you, I wouldn't be surprised if that expanded in your household with Jess's art and things like that, right?
Yeah. It all works out together kind of thing, right? Totally. So how about with you? How's the balance going with all the stuff going on?
It's good. You know what? I think Kevin and I have found like a real sweet spot being able to work on the businesses together, like the office spaces. That's our passion project together, our investment projects together. So because our households, we can't change our locations right now, that becomes something that really gives us something that feels like us.
Yes, for sure.
Together.
For sure.
And then we've really managed to work out a great balance where, like, I mean, a couple of years ago, it was like, maybe once a month I would be able to see him sometimes, right? But now it's like every week we're figuring something out.
That's
so
good.
That we can see each other. So it just is, that feels really good. And then of course, he's always amazing at trying to find time for us to just prioritize some time for the two of us. But so life is still like busy and the same as before, but it's not stressful in yucky ways. Like everything feels so satisfied and everything feels like it's worth the work for the bigger picture.
Yes.
And that's really the thing, is like everything, we go through these busy moments, we go through really labor intensive moments, but it is every bit worth it when we know where we're going. And I think that's also why it's so important to have these milestones of like, what's a 1-year plan? What's a 5-year plan? Like, where do I see myself? Because when you have that to anchor into, you can get through the burn of it all.
Yeah,
right?
because there are moments that it gets really hard.
Oh God, and you literally just take it day by day. I'm in the season of life where like every day I'm just taking each day of all the things that need to happen and just getting through each day. And then all of a sudden the weekend, and especially when I get to see Kevin, just feels very rewarding. Yeah. And that's just kind of where we are. And that's what happens in hockey life, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it literally is that demanding on a day-to-day basis, just juggling all the other things that are happening. So it's been good. And like I said, satisfying. Like we've had an episode on satisfaction, right? We can let so many things slide and we can endure so much when we can anchor into a sense of satisfaction with it all.
Yeah. Even just to be content. With the way things are going. Like I meditate every day and it always has this check-in, how do you feel? And I'd say 95% of the time I just hit content. Yeah. There's an odd time where it's like grateful or happy and then sometimes like stressed or anxious, but most of the time it's just content. And that's kind of nice after decades of like, this blows. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a sweet spot that you are totally good with. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so is there anything else?
I think that's that.
Aside from the emotional check-in with everybody, you guys, this is it. There's no more of season 4.
We're not like stay tuned for your next favorite episode because we don't know when that's coming.
That's the title of this. Stay tuned for your next favorite
episode. Oh, I like that because that's what we always say at the end anyways.
I'm goosebumpy in my head. That's it. Jason had a different one, but
it was pretty good. It was pretty good. But this was that. Stay tuned for your next favorite episode.
That's it. Because we don't know.
No, we don't know.
We don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So until then.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Jolene.
Stay tuned for your next favorite episode.